Welcome to Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm your host, Josh Green, Senator from the Big Island, ER physician. Today I'm joined by a professor from the UH, Professor Vivek Nerurkar, who has degrees in zoology, medical technology, animal physiology, applied biology, neurobiology, biochemistry, and neurovirology. Trained at NIH, an excellent individual. Thank you for joining me, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
So we have a challenge in our state. As everyone knows, we've had a dengue fever outbreak. You come to us with incredible credentials. You are Chair at JABSOM, Department of Tropical Medicine, Medical Biology, Microbiology, and Pharmacology. You're the director there. I wanted to bring you onto the show because so many people across our state are concerned about the impact of infectious disease here and now. We've had a dengue fever outbreak. You seem like an excellent expert to bring. Why don't you just give us a little start, though, before we dive into dengue and very likely Zika virus. Today's show is called Dengue and Zika. Tell us a little bit about what the Department of Tropical Medicine does so our viewers can understand.
So thank you, Josh, for inviting me. This is a time when our state is facing a great challenge of dengue. And we are here in the medical school. I just want to say the department is the Department of Tropical Medicine, Medical Microbiology and Pharmacology at the John A. Burns School of Medicine. We have been working on dengue as the department per se for the past 40 plus years.
Wow.
So the department was formed 50 years ago when the medical school was formed. So right after that, the department was formed. At that time, it was called Department of Tropical Medicine. Mm-hmm. And then we added to that medical microbiology and pharmacology down the line. And it's really irony to think about it in a way now that this is the department which was initially located at the Lehigh Hospital in Kaimuki here. And there are two theories of dengue, how you can get. One is a virus-only theory, and one is the immune theory.
Okay.
And both the theories were discovered on the second and the third floor of the Lehigh Hospital here in Hawaii.
Amazing.
Okay. So in 1970s, and people around the world, around the globe, are still working on those two theories. One was Dr. Scott Halstead, who was the department chair back then, and very recently we also had Dr. Dwayne Gubler, who was another department chair, both experts in tropical medicine. So I think this department has been with the university for 50 plus years now. And I think now is the time that when we have dengue here in the state of Hawaii, we need to really look at this very closely and more carefully to see what can we do, how can this department help, how can we help the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, what kind of ties we can tie with them so that we can combat dengue in here.
Let me ask you this. You have a team over at JABSOM, mm-hmm. and you're doing research. Now, you said that in the beginning, many years ago, some of these theories were fleshed out. What does that mean? Were you the people who discovered how dengue was being transmitted and how it was, passing in a society?
Right. So back then, almost 45 years ago or 40 years ago, the faculty in this department were responsible for forming those initial theories of dengue infection and pathogenesis. I think that is really goosebump kind of a thing, that here are the people who have done that in the world in here, and we have dengue in here too. And but more importantly, till now we are still following those two theories in here too. So I think it's important that people should recognize that what are the strengths in the department. And apart from dengue, that is the flaviviruses, we also have a team working on malaria,
yes.
As well as HIV. So we have a well-rounded department in which we have people work on, our faculty work on not only viruses, but bacteria and parasites.
So it's just so incredible to hear that because now, of course, we're in the news. Hawaii has had this dengue fever outbreak on the Big Island where I represent. We're at about 250 cases right now. And to know that we have this experience and this team working right in our midst is special. Now, does that mean that you're able to work with the Department of Health and work with other departments, or do they tend to be separate?
Well, we are technically separate, but I think one of the goal for past 22 years I have been here with the UH. One of the goal always has to be that we need to work very collaboratively along with the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture. I think we are a small state.
Yes.
With being, we have advantages and disadvantages of being a small state.
Right.
One of the advantages is that we basically know each other very well, and the disadvantage is that we are far off from other bigger states like California and New York. But at the same time, with the internet connection and the good computer connections, that distance is really now nothing. Basically, you can pick up the phone and call somebody across the globe now.
Yes.
So I think the question now is that can I pick up some phone right now and call Department of Health, which is right here on this island. And so I think the collaborations which we have in these field need to be increased. We do have some collaborations, but I think having more collaborations which can help us understand what's happening with dengue also.
Yes.
One of the examples is that when I came in here 22 years ago, we used to work a lot on HIV. At that time, HIV was a big problem.
Yes.
And basically, we used to do a bean counting. How many people are alive, how many people are died, how many people got their meds. But all the blood samples which we collected, we used to send out to the NIH for doing the CD4 counts and everything else.
Right.
But our goal was back then to make sure that we can do all here in Hawaii. And I'm very proud to say that the group in here at the medical school has successfully done that. We have our own AIDS clinical trials unit, and we have the AIDS clinical program. We don't have to go to the mainland to do all the CD4 counts. We do all our analysis right in here in Hawaii.
Yes.
So I think within the past, say around 10 or 15 years, we have achieved that goal of being self-sufficient here in Hawaii. And I think that is the most important thing, that sustainability. Can we do this thing in Hawaii? But there are many other diseases for diagnosis as well as vaccines. We still depend upon mainland. We had to go to CDC or NIH or any of those number of places.
Right.
And imagine if a baby is sick at Kapiolani, they draw the blood and the physicians can't understand what's going on. They say that no, we have sent the sample out to mainland. You wait for a couple of days or maybe weeks, and if you don't get any result, there's the anxiousness and the agony the parents have to go through.
For sure.
It just can't even imagine. You have to be a parent for that to understand what the parent is going through.
Right.
So I think why is that? We don't have technology, we don't have a talent. What we don't have? But by being in here for the 22 years, I can tell you that we have technology, we have good talent, we have people here on the island who are experts. We can use all of those to bring this home in here and don't try to send out everything back to the mainland. I think if you start having this culture of shipping out everything, I think that culture is not going to drive further your innovation, what you do in here.
Right.
And I think one of the main things what UH is after now is also to have innovation, to see what areas of innovation we are having. And these are some of the innovation areas which we need to build on. But for that, you need collaborations. And
well, let me ask you that. So, Professor, what would it take to turn that tide so that, for instance, with dengue fever, that a case of dengue is discovered on Big Island in this case, that everything be contained, that there's a full collaboration with the UH, that the blood tests are done here, that the analysis, the genetic analysis of the virus and so on are all done here? I mean, you say we have the intellectual capabilities, which I totally agree with. Do we need more resources? Do we need someone to insist at the UH? How would you go about getting that collaboration in place?
So let me step back in the sense, we need to understand that after all, we had to, the physicians like you,
Yes.
had to manage patients. And for that, when you do a diagnostic test, you need to have a CLIA certified laboratory.
Yes.
And that's very important. But CLIA certified laboratories are the things what they do, which is done routinely. We are a research laboratory. We are not CLIA certified. So I think these are the kind of things which we need to first think about. If we develop a technology in here, can we get that technology CLIA certified?
Okay.
So can we have a CLIA certified small laboratory here at UH, which can work very closely with Department of Health or the Upper Medical Center, different organizations in here. So once we have that, because we have the capacity and capability, and we have proven it that we can do this test here in Hawaii.
Right.
But At the same time, we are not CLIA certified. So if we are not, then we need to get that certified.
That should be pretty basic, right?
That is very basic, but it requires resources too.
Okay.
It's not something, we cannot put it under our research kind of a component. It has to come out of a different part of money if you want to get that for resources.
Yes.
So I think if we have those resources, then we can do that. So that's where the collaboration starts.
Yes.
But then there are many other things, just for simple, mosquitoes. So if you have mosquitoes, how many of these mosquitoes are infected?
Yes.
So if the vector control is going to go out there and catch mosquitoes, it's not only to destruct the mosquitoes per se or destroy the mosquitoes per se, but also to study them.
Yes.
Because they are your clue to what's happening in the thing.
Yes.
So to me, if you identify a single case in a household, then you need to go around the household and check out to see are there any mosquitoes and probably capture them.
Yes.
To see whether are these mosquitoes infected. So now who will do the test of infection? Okay, so mosquito infection test doesn't require a CLIA certification. That can be done in a research laboratory.
Okay.
And we have full capacity of doing those kinds of tests right here in Hawaii. We are currently helping out DoD to looking at their establishments too. So it's not that we are not doing it, but we need these vector control people when they go out, collect the mosquitoes, have the presence in, okay, now we need to also get these mosquitoes tested and not thrown out.
What are they doing now?
I don't know what they're doing now, but I'm sure that there must be some plan in there too. So I think it's important to understand what types of mosquitoes are there.
Yes.
We have Aegypti. So if you have a household, are there all the mosquitoes around the household are Aegypti? Are there in the mix of other mosquitoes? Which ones of these mosquitoes are infected? You need to go behind the basic biology of the mosquitoes and understand where the mosquitoes are. We do have an insectary here at the University of Hawaii, here at the JAPSOM, but due to resources, we have to shut that down too.
Oh, geez.
And so we need resources to keep these things going on. And in the case like what we are having currently, dengue, this is the perfect resource which we have in here, and I'm sure that your vector control people, once they come to know that, they would want to use this kind of a resource in here too.
And I think it's really good to know this and good to have this discussion because as we speak, the governor and the mayor are discussing emergency appropriations, emergency declarations to bring more resources quickly. It sounds to me like conceivably they could use some of those resources both for on-the-ground vector control and entomology, but also collaboration with the university so that some of that work can be done here rather than having to bring in experts from CDC or
Right.
other organizations.
And we do in-house in-house experts who can help out with the state, especially the professors who are working on dengue specifically.
Yes.
They can be called on any time and get some answers from them. And we are here. Technically, we are state employees too.
Yes.
So take advantage of that, and let us be part of this, and let us answer some of the questions which you have. We may not be able to answer all the questions you have, but we will at least try to do our best and go back and get some resources. We know where the resources are. We have those connections on the mainland as well as globally.
Yes, and I think that before we take our first break, it's probably very relevant to say, though it is easy to communicate globally, there are some benefits of being right there on the scene where you can send some of your faculty into the field, or you can have those health department officials bringing you samples directly within just hours rather than the normal days. I think why don't we stop there? When we come back, we'll start talking about the specifics of dengue and then the threats of Zika. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Josh Green, your host of Healthcare in Hawaii, Senator from the Big Island.
Okay, I'm Jay Fidel, that's Ray Starling. We co-host a show called Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. It's really interesting. Ray has a way of unzipping these guys. He asks them these questions and all this stuff tumbles out, and we find out stuff we would never know about without Ray's questions. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome, Jay. I'm very pleased to be your Ed McMahon every Wednesday at 4 o'clock here on the internet. So you can join us and see what's happening in the energy world, and there is a lot going on. So join us every Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, come around, be energized, right here on Think Tech. Aloha.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, asking you to come join us on Think Tech Hawaii Hibachi Talk. Join me and my two hosts, Gordo the Texan, and enter the security guy every Friday from 12:45 till 13:45. See you on Fridays, and remember, let your wing gang free, wherever you be.
Aloha, welcome back to Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm your host, Josh Green from the Big Island. Today I'm joined by Professor Vivek Nerurkar, who is faculty at JABSOM. He's also an expert in virology, has a great deal of experience in tropical medicine, and he's here to talk to us about dengue and Zika. Having been here for 22 years, you have a terrific perspective, Professor. In 2001, we had an outbreak, as we know, of dengue fever on Maui. Could you give us a little bit of reflection on what it was like experiencing that in the state? What was it like to see the response? How did that go?
I think that was really a memorable outbreak which I can see in my lifetime in Hawaii. That was the outbreak which occurred after the 1940s outbreak, so there was a long gap in there.
Yes.
And ironically, there was an outbreak in 2001, then we had outbreak in 2011,
Yes.
and exactly 10 years after that, and now we have outbreak in 2015, 2016. So when looking back at the 2001 outbreak, we were part of the Department of Health, and we were trying to help them out, what to do and how to collect the samples. I think that was a great time for the university per se. We hope that this is the same thing which we can do in here too. But the more important part of it is that between 2001 and 2011, the outbreak which occurred in 2011 was really small. It was not as large as 2001.
Yes.
So when this outbreak occurred in 2015, when I was talking to some of your media folks,
Yes.
Based upon my past experience of 2001, I thought this outbreak will die down. I came into picture when there was a case number 18.
Yes.
Okay, and then it was a case number 30. But I thought that these will really dampen out by the end of December.
Right.
But I think that did not happen, and that really made me worried to see why did we have this outbreak going on for almost now 6 months, almost coming up in soon. So the question becomes is that what is the difference between 2001 outbreak and 2011 outbreak?
Yes.
And 2015 outbreak. Now, of course, 2001 outbreak, we did have some cases in here too, but most of the cases were in Maui, Hana.
Yes.
In 2015 outbreak, we have it on the Big Island.
Right.
Of course, the biggest difference is the mosquito. Okay, the mosquito which we have in the Big Island is Aedes aegypti.
Yes.
And the mosquito which we have here in Hawaii, in Honolulu, as well as on Maui, is Aedes albopictus.
Yes.
Now, this virus, these two mosquitoes are cousins, but they are different. We know while doing experiments in the laboratory that Aedes aegypti is a very aggressive mosquito. But more than that, it is that mosquito which is a excellent transmitter of dengue, while Aedes albopictus, even though it is aggressive, it is a poor transmitter of dengue.
Do we know why? Why is that?
So people have worked on it, and we in our laboratory have worked on it too, at least on Aedes albopictus, and we feel that there is a gut barrier there. So the barrier which is there between these mosquitoes is different, and that barrier is causing it less transmission capacity or incompetent vector as compared to the Aedes aegypti.
Yes.
So there are some scientific reasons behind that too, and we know that these two mosquitoes transmit virus completely differently.
Yes.
So that was the biggest difference between 2001 and 2014 or 15.
Yes.
Dengue outbreak which we had in here, and then again back then somehow or the other we were able to control the mosquito population in Hana.
Yes.
I remember of some of the vector control people going in there, they were just full of mosquitoes up in there. And within a couple of weeks, they were able to control that. So there was these pockets of places on Hana. Then we got some cases also in Honolulu.
Yes.
But again, we were able to control them. So things have changed. So you have to really go back and see what kind of a vector control support we had back then as compared to what control support we have now.
Yes. You're speaking about the personnel, because I know we've been, some have been critical, but also we've defended Department of Health. They unfortunately don't have the same capacity as far as vector control personnel. That dropped from about mid 50s, 55, 56 people down into the low 20s. It's just not enough personnel. But in addition to that, are there other reasons it's difficult to control Aedes aegypti mosquitoes in the Big Island? It's just the gigantic geography? What do you think?
Right. So you said the word Big Island, and the big is the biggest word in there too. So I think it is the proportion of the land basically, and it's so sparsed out.
Yes.
So it's not going to be easy to control. But if you have manpower, you can control that thing. So I agree with you that there is nothing. I don't see any difference in there per se. That the mosquitoes on the Big Island are anything different than what you see on the mainland, where they have Aedes aegypti too. So I believe the mosquitoes are the same.
Okay.
But the population of the density of mosquitoes is much more higher on the Big Island, and it is spread around the entire island.
Yes. What about other countries? Now, we're hearing in Brazil they have a gigantic outbreak. We know that they've had dengue fever, of course, and now they have Zika, which we'll come to in a moment. But I read in the newspaper recently that it was so dire a situation that the Brazilian government mobilized their military and had hundreds of thousands of people working on mosquito vectors. Is this the kind of thing that we could possibly have to consider? I don't mean hundreds of thousands of individuals, but in order to control mosquitoes and eradicate them, is it going to take a massive manpower effort, or is that a futile approach?
Well, I think there are epidemiologists and entomologists out there who can also better answer this question than me. But I think the very simple thing is each individual, a person, need to have some civic responsibility.
Yes.
We all have a civic responsibility. When we are in a household, we need to make sure that around our household we don't have some open water.
Yes.
We don't have coconut pots around in there. We don't have open tires in there. So all of these places are where the mosquitoes breed.
Yes.
So those things can be controlled is within us. So basically education.
Yes.
Okay. So I think there has to be some efforts in educating the people in the schools as well as the parents. The schools should have parents' night now just to see how are you going to control dengue.
Yes.
Because Zika is just following it.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. One problem I think that we've had, and I don't know this, I don't know I can say this with completely definitive certainty, but a lot of times on the Big Island, for instance, you have people that are full-time residents and then you have part-time residents. And there's a lot of properties I know that the Department of Health has come up against where they've had cases of dengue fever. They've done a very good job clearing out standing water. They've sprayed, but then 2, 3, or 4 houses around that single house, that center of activity, the people are gone. They're on vacation, or the house has been abandoned, or they can't get into it. And they've said that it's very difficult in some cases to clear out the free water. How would you deal with that? Is it something that the state should be able to do and go in and get onto other people's properties, or is it just really going to be, again, people are going to have to step up in their community?
Correct. I think the latter is true, that people will have to step up in the community. And yes, there are these houses which might be empty, and maybe there should be something looked at into your Big Island Council.
Yes.
To see how are you going to address this problem. So there are ways to do that. One of the ways is that, of course, you cannot talk to the person because that person is not at home,
Right.
or been out for vacation for 6 months. Are there any laws? Are there any laws in there where in such kind of cases you can get in the house, at least in the backyard, to clean up that thing?
Yes.
Now these are very sensitive issues, and they need to be talked up with the local councilman.
Yeah, I actually made some inquiries, and it appears that given our current statutes, that for the good of public health, there's already a standard. The attorneys told me that there really shouldn't be anything to stop the Department of Health, not from encroaching on people's civil liberties, but if there's simply a house or a set of houses that are, completely unoccupied over a given period of time, and they're worried about these mosquito vectors for dengue, that they can go clear it out. But let's go a little bit more back to your technical expertise. You have a fleet of faculty working in tropical medicine. They can look at these mosquitoes and run tests on them. What kind of tests are those? I've heard all kind of comments from the newspaper and out there that there's technology to have infertile mosquitoes. There's technology to have other bacteria that might affect mosquitoes. Are these the kind of things that you could work on?
We can give advice on those kinds of things, but let me tell you what we can work on. We can work on testing the mosquitoes.
Okay.
Okay. So we use the simple test like PCR or polymerase chain reaction, and we have different dengue. There are 4 serotypes of dengue: dengue 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
And we can test for all of those 4 serotypes in the mosquito. So that's one thing which we can do. The second thing which you told about, how can we have these infertile mosquitoes per se?
Yes.
There's a bacteria called Wolbachia.
Yes.
Wolbachia. So there is a whole process in there, and I just read somewhere that these people are just having this Wolbachia infected mosquitoes in a small carton, some tens and thousands of mosquitoes, and then go into a community and release those mosquitoes.
Okay.
So basically, what happens is that when the mating occurs between these mosquitoes, the progeny is infertile.
Got it.
So when the progeny is infertile, then there will be less spread of mosquitoes around in the community too. So one thing you need to understand that we need mosquitoes too. Okay, for the ecosystem to thrive, we need mosquitoes. The question is that how can we control them?
Yes. Well, what is the general need for mosquitoes? Because I read an article recently, and I'm not disputing what you say. Someone I read, I don't know whether it was New York Times, they said, should we not try to eradicate mosquitoes from the whole globe? Granted, that sounds like, kind of a crazy statement, but is it something that people are going to have to begin to consider? Vast eradication of mosquitoes if we're having outbreaks of Zika in Brazil and dengue fever in Big Island, and
I think we need to be very careful what we say.
Yes.
Because mosquitoes, there are mosquitoes. You see the final end of a mosquito, but before that there's a larvae, there's the pupae,
yes,
and then there is the eggs.
yes,
Okay, so we know that these eggs can stay dormant for years together.
okay,
Okay, so you can get rid of the mosquitoes. What about the eggs?
yes,
Okay, so the eggs will be there, so they can be lining up the entire well or something like that, and then when the dry season is over, you will see this whole fleet of mosquitoes coming back up. Now let me tell you something else. So there are many countries around the globe, in Mexico too. There are layers and layers of soil
yes,
and complete infrastructure, if you want to say that, under the house, under what you see above, somebody has built above that.
okay,
Okay, so there are pockets inside there. You and I cannot get in there.
yes.
Water can get in there, and mosquitoes can get in there.
Interesting. So even if there's a massive effort, you're saying, to eradicate mosquitoes in any individual society, you still will have unseen eggs, larvae, and mosquitoes that are going to come next generation.
Correct.
So really, to go back to what the benefit of the university would probably be, it would be that as the Department of Health has its vector control individuals bringing in large sample sizes and has them assessed, you could do it on the site here in Hawaii and then give them some guidance as to where you're having large populations of infected mosquitoes versus much smaller populations.
Correct.
And maybe guide their response.
Yeah. So if they go near a house where the index cases and they collect some samples, so we can easily pool say 25 samples, 25 mosquitoes in one tube and do the analysis.
Yes.
And tell them, okay, among these 25 mosquitoes, they came from this part. There are a couple of mosquitoes which are positive in here.
Yes.
The other part, everything is negative. So we can see by epidemiological calculations that which are the hotspots, true hotspots, and where should the people going in there to spray. It's not only blind spraying everywhere.
Right.
You can have targeted spraying. So I think with that, with the vector control and us working together, we can really have some good output of that, specifically to detect the mosquitoes which are positive and then go after those areas where we see a high density of positive mosquitoes, not just mosquitoes. Positive means positive for dengue or anything else.
It's excellent. I think this is a good place for us to take another small pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Zika virus and how the university might weigh in.
Sure.
I'm Josh Green, Healthcare in Hawaii, your host from the Senate.
Hello, I'm Stephen Katz, and I'm the host of Shrink Wrap, which comes to you live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and then it's repeated again whenever you want if you go to the website. On our show, we will be talking to all different kinds of therapists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, people who talk about the mind, the brain, and about different ways to find happiness. I myself am a marriage and family therapist in practice here in Hawaii, and I hope you will join us because I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to learn, and it's a great ride. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Aloha, welcome back to Healthcare in Hawaii. This is our third segment of the show. Today I'm joined by Professor Vivek Nerurkar, who's from tropical medicine over at JABSOM. He's terrific. He's been giving us a very interesting education and insight in how universities can deal with infectious disease, outbreaks, vectors, and it appears to me from our first two segments that there's an incredible capacity there that we maybe ought to be considering tapping even more than we are today. Not that there isn't communication, there's really wonderful communication at times between all of our departments, but there must be ways that we can utilize this capacity, these experts in your department, to help us with dengue fever and Zika. Now, tell me a little bit about the Zika virus. In the news recently, people are becoming very concerned. I read that there were many cases in Brazil that unfortunately or tragically have begun to be connected to microcephaly. They're afraid, the World Health Organization put out an emergency declaration that pregnant individuals in Brazil are having a lot of children born with this birth defect. Are we going to have to worry about Zika coming to Hawaii?
Well, I think there is no reason why Zika can't come to Hawaii. Now, Department of Health can tell you that we over the past 10 years or so, we did have some Zika cases coming in and out of from the tourists who visit us too.
Yes.
So back in 2007, if you remember, we had a Zika outbreak in the island of Yap, here in the South Pacific.
Okay.
It was a major outbreak, and back at that time was the time when we started thinking, if it can happen in that island, why not Hawaii? What is so specific for Hawaii that it cannot happen in here?
Yes.
We have all the ingredients what you need to happen those kinds of things in here too. So back then we had submitted an application to the Department of Agriculture too to see if we can get import Zika here in Hawaii to work on the diagnostics and vaccines.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't get approved, but now they're working on it. So I think Zika is one of the things which we need to make sure that we can control it. And what do we do? Zika, similar to dengue, if you can control dengue, you can control Zika. What are we doing here in Hawaii per se? Zika, since the time probably around 3 to 4 months now, 3 months almost now.
Yes.
Since November of 2015, when we started seeing Zika cases in Brazil, as well as having some information coming out from there. We had a first case of Zika here in Hawaii in December of 2015, and in that case was a mother who came from Brazil, and she delivered a baby here at Kapiolani Medical Center who had a microcephaly. But not necessary that all the Zika infected women are delivering babies with microcephaly.
Yes.
So this is a very unique phenomena. We still don't know what is that time frame in which there should be an infection and how that infection will further lead to microcephaly. Now, is that within the first 3 months, towards early part of the first 3 months, later part of the first 3 months of pregnancy? So those are the kind of things which we are going to start understanding now. If you read day before yesterday, the president has put out almost $1.8 billion to work on Zika. Some of the monies are going to go to research, to looking at what's happening with this connection with microcephaly and Zika. Now, we being in the scientific field, we don't want to quickly admit everything what we see. These are circumstantial evidence, but we need to prove it. We need to prove it. There has to be epidemiological studies which will prove that there is a clear-cut association between Zika and Zika infection and babies born later on who are having microcephaly. The one thing which we will be very interested in knowing that does how early it occurs in the pregnancy.
Right.
So that's where we are right now.
So from your perspective, I can read between the lines, your first hope that you've expressed to me on multiple occasions is by working on dengue and having the right response and getting the vectors cleared out, we could, at least locally, reassure ourselves that we're not going to have an outbreak of Zika virus, because they're both carried by the same mosquito, correct?
You're absolutely right. What I always say that you're going to kill 2 birds in 1 stone.
Right.
Okay, because both of these viruses are carried by mosquito. If you control the mosquito, you can control both of these viruses too.
But because we have had outbreaks on Yap, and I think you were mentioning Tonga now?
Right. There was a news coming out just within the last 24 to 48 hours. There was an outbreak in Tonga now. So there were 5 cases and something 250 suspected cases, and 5 confirmed cases. So and again, Tonga is again a small island too.
Yes.
I believe the Australian government has given some monies, although very small. That monies have been given to the Tongan government and the people who work in there to control the outbreak of Zika in Tonga.
So we, it appears we'll be gearing up to make sure we have vector control in place. You and your colleagues will be able to do analyses. You mentioned earlier you could check for dengue strains 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you were able to get mosquitoes, would you also be able to check to see whether they had the Zika virus?
Right, and that you asked the right question. So just within the last 3 weeks or so, working with my collaborators in Thailand,
Yes.
at the Maidon University, we got some positive controls and other things. So we can now do Zika PCRs here in Hawaii.
Interesting.
And again, we have a serological assay also from a company, and we are trying to develop our own serological assay in here too. So, if we had this virus coming in 2007 in our laboratory, by now we would be having all of this tests done.
Yes.
We'd be prepared. So I think the lesson learned in here is that we need to be a step ahead.
Yes.
We need to be a step ahead, and we need to do this early on.
Do you think that your research could lead over time to immunizations for these kind of illnesses?
So you're talking about vaccines.
Yes.
So that's one big thing, and we have faculty in our department who are working on vaccines. One of the faculty is working on Ebola vaccine, and we are now starting working on Zika vaccine too.
Yes.
Not only Zika but also chikungunya. Chikungunya is a big brother of Zika, if you want to say that.
Yes.
It's also one of the deadly and horrific diseases in which the pain is so excruciating pain, and there is no reason why chikungunya can not come to Hawaii too.
Right.
So, and we are working on that. So our main goal now is to work on Zika diagnostic, chikungunya diagnostic, as well as vaccine for both of these, Zika and chikungunya.
So to give people a big picture as we kind of come down the final stretch of our program, you have the capacity at UH, at the school, with your research team to do analysis, to do assays of what kind of viruses are in these mosquitoes. You simply need to have the samples of mosquitoes and the resources, of course, in the lab to do it. Going forward, then you'll have the materials to do all kind of scientific research on how to deal and come up with vaccinations, how to quickly assay these vectors. I mean, it seems like the federal government, with President Obama coming up with a large amount of money, is taking this pretty seriously. Are we expecting Zika to be one of the emerging threats to the developed world in the coming years?
I think so. And what I was talking to my colleagues, it's going to be Zika is the virus of the year. If you say everything, what is something X of the year?
Yes.
So it looks like Zika is going to be the virus of the year in here too. And yes, whatever all you said, yes, we can do that in Hawaii. The one thing which we need to all look at that again, to do any kind of a vaccination trial, vaccine trial, you need also people.
Yes.
Right. So we have people here within our department who are experts in doing clinical trials for vaccines.
Yes.
But more than that, we also have experts who looked at immunology, and immunology is one of the subjects which is very important for these kinds of viral infections. There are different kinds of immunology per se. What I'm trying to say in here is that we need to have access to patients.
Yes.
We need to have access to the patient's siblings and the patients who are living with it. So if you are infected with Zika, how is your body reacting? As opposed to the person who is living with you, who may or may not be exposed to Zika, may have a disease,
Yes.
but might be reacting differently.
Do we have the capacity to go to these other places like Yap or Tonga and do some of this research? How does that work?
These are really expensive endeavors, and we need to have grants and funding for doing that. But we can do it here in Hawaii.
Yes.
We don't have to go to YAP and this thing. We have it on the Big Island.
Yes.
We have to have a close collaboration with the Department of Health and other interested parties. There are some HIPAA rules in there, so we can't break the HIPAA rules.
Yes.
So we need to go around the HIPAA rules and see how we can still do our research. Now, let me get you one example which I really want to focus on now. For example, if you have, and I'm going to just slightly diverse into the homeless population in Hawaii too,
Sure.
including the ones which you have on the Big Island.
Yes.
So imagine a homeless person on the Big Island getting infected with dengue.
Yes.
Okay, and you know that the person is viremic. That means it has a virus in the body. The virus can stay for 7 days.
Yes.
Where does this person go and stay now?
Yeah, they're staying at the beach.
Stay at the beach,
Yeah.
right? And what is there at the beach? More mosquitoes.
Yes.
Correct? So this person who is viremic is a perfect bait for the mosquitoes to suck the blood out and next day pass it on to the next person who is jogging on the beach.
Yes.
Right? So this is how the transmission occurs. Now this is a very sensitive issue. How are you going to take care of that too? So you need to take care of this person who is homeless
Yes.
to make sure that he is not bitten by mosquitoes.
Yes.
So at least for the 7 days, you need to have some space for him or her to stay somewhere so that there is no mosquito biting going on. These are the kind of really simple, small things which we need to take care of to stop the transmission. But after all, we have to stop the transmission. There's one way to stop the transmission is kill all the mosquitoes,
Right.
or at least go with the abating of the mosquitoes. Other way is to look at, you are only creating a mosquito host.
Yes.
You have a host sitting in there who's viremic.
Yes.
So how do you address this? These are very delicate questions, and I think we as a community and you as the legislature
Yes.
both need to partner up and address these questions.
Is that something that also, like some of the divisions at the University of Hawaii and the medical school can work on, like the epidemiologist there? Because it would be very helpful, I think, for legislators, policymakers, administrators to be able to hear from the university on best recommendations that are going on in other countries, what the probabilities are of transmission when you have a population that, I guess our population of homeless individuals is now about 8,000 to 10,000 people across the
Right.
state. Are these the kind of calculations that a university can make?
Yes. So we have people in here who are what we call good modelers.
Yes.
They can model a disease. They can model epidemic, and I think we should take help from them to see how we can do that. We need to have access for them to go out with the other Department of Health, Department of Ag people in the community and start looking and designing the projects. So these are the projects which are going to also bring you federal funding.
Yes.
Okay, the federal funding is going to come to Hawaii because of these kinds of research. So you need to be focused on how to control the mosquito, how to detect Zika, how to detect dengue, but at the same time, when you're doing all of this, how you can also help out with the research problems, research collaborations, which are ultimately also going to bring, all of this what I told you earlier
Yes.
is going to spend monies,
Yes.
correct? The next research is going to bring monies to Hawaii, and the collaborations are going to bring monies to Hawaii. These are all federal dollars, they are sitting in there, but we need to work together to get them.
I appreciate it. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our show. My name is Josh Green. I'm the host of Healthcare in Hawaii. I've been very privileged to be a host to Professor Vivek, Theories of Tropical Medicine. He's spoken eloquently today on the questions of dengue, Zika virus, and the capacity that they have at the university to collaborate with Department of Health and other policymakers to help stop some of these outbreaks. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.